What's up, yo?
We live?
Sure.
Live and direct from studio out the gate. It's your boys, Mr. Ayo John.
Hey,
Jaylee. Hey, how you doing?
quite well.
Happy to hear that.
Mm.
And of course, you all know my schmo of a face, Mr. Danny Yankee. Hope you all are doing well this evening for our episode 2 about the gate. How you feeling today about this episode, John?
I'm excited, Gore. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of things happening even as we speak. You just mentioned another little baby trade happening with San Diego. So a lot to go over, man.
Indeed. But I guess the hottest topic to sort of divulge into immediately is talking about our latest acquisition from the Pittsburgh Pirates, starting pitcher Jameson Taillon. Taillon.
It's gonna be hard, man. It's gonna be hard to really I don't know why it's so hard. It looks so easy. Kind of want to say Talon.
Right.
Kind of want to say Taillon, but you know.
Kind of wonder, I mean, even though he's a pitcher, what way John Sterling goes with it, because obviously he is a wordsmith when it comes to very unique names in that sense. But yeah, so Jameson Taillon, recently acquired from the Pittsburgh Pirates, traded for prospects for him. Lot to expect from this guy, man. I mean, I did my research on him. I didn't know much about him going into this. I'm sure a lot of other people can relate, but it was actually really compelling for me to learn that he was selected second overall in the first round, before him being Bryce Harper and after him being Manny Machado. So I think that in itself sort of speaks to his ability to pitch and his skill as a pitcher. And if he could just sort of channel what he went through in high school and college ball, I'd imagine that he'd be able to put on for the city.
I hope so.
Of course. Go ahead.
We need it. I mean, I didn't know that he was drafted that long ago. I kind of remember him a little bit with Pittsburgh. But yeah, second round pick. Looks like he made his debut in 16. What's really weird, and I didn't know, like you said, you were doing some research on him. He had that one good year with Pittsburgh, but he had a pretty low ERA. But what's crazy off the field with two Tommy Johns, I don't know if you know this, but he overcame testicular cancer in August of 2019
Right.
also. So he's had a lot of stuff going on. We got a steal for him. I mean, obviously it's not a steal when you don't really know what you're going to get from him. $2.25 million for him this year. I think he's got an arbitration next year. So, that gives us an option at that time. If he really exceeds, we can lock him in for something higher. But, it's just one of these things. It's just another low risk, high reward kind of guy. But to me, it seems like another one of those guys that cash goes to get and could turn out to be somebody, like when we got Urshela for basically nothing, or we basically got Luke Voigt for almost nothing, and guys of that nature.
Yeah. We definitely got him for nothing. Chasen Shreve ain't nobody.
Right. So, he could be one of those guys. I like his relationship with Cole. I think that's going to be a nice thing. Cole teaching anybody about anything is outstanding. When you have one of the best pitchers in the game, if not the best, teaching somebody else. They kind of were together. I just had seen on the hot stove that they were on a futures game or a futures team back in 2012 or something like that.
Right. I believe they were in USA baseball training camps together in clinics.
Right. So, there's a lot of upside. I looked at a lot of his highlights. 8.2 WAR, 367 ERA in 82 games. I what I noticed, primarily with him is that pitching wise, he's loves his curveball as leans on that for like an out pitch. His fastball is like in the 93 to 97 consistently. It just kind of depends on. Um, we've had pitchers that have a curveball as an out pitch, and usually it's out to right field. So I don't really know what's going to happen with him. He's got to keep
Right.
those homers down to right field, but I think he's going to be pretty good, man. I don't know. I kind of like his persona and the way he's going about things. Let's just hopefully it translates to the field.
Yeah, I think you said it best. Low risk, high reward. Obviously, very favorable when it comes to the cap hit. The Yankees still have some flexibility as far as getting under the 210 luxury tax. And, this is something that all the teams are doing, even the Dodgers and the Mets. Obviously, Steve Cohen, one of the bigger owners, and as far as what his value is. But all of these teams are trying to get under the luxury tax, but so it certainly is favorable. And I think if he could channel what he did those 4 years that he has pitched, like you said, the 3.67 ERA, he's actually averaged like some pretty high innings as well. 466 innings pitched over these 4 years, 2019 being his lowest. He didn't pitch in 2020. He had the 2 Tommy John surgeries, one in college, and one of the minor leagues, and then one in his professional career. Testicular cancer, and he actually had a hernia surgery, man, which was pretty intense too. I've had 2 hernia removals, so that's nothing to scoff at. But at this point, if you couple him with the likes of some of the other guys that we have in the rotation, you alluded to Cole. Obviously, Yankees went and got Kluber. This dude, you got Davy Garcia, Jordan Montgomery, with a few other darts at the back end to sort of fill in when needed. I think Cashman has pieced together a pretty favorable rotation here going into the season. So
it's almost like we got too many guys right now.
I mean, but what we can learn quickly is that we don't have enough guys, right? Like if we go back to 2019 with the whole next man up sort of idea, and it seemed like that was repeating itself in 2020. But yeah, it's always good to have those reinforcements and people proven winners too. Severino, of course, we don't know what he's going to be, but hopefully he brings to the table what he did back in 2017, 2018.
Right.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this move. And like you said, perhaps Cashman has found another diamond in the rough and will walk away a brilliant mastermind once again in finding the hidden gem from the lowly Pirates. You and I talk about this often. It's like teams like the Pirates and the Indians. It's like, what are you even in this for? The Orioles, even when they show an inkling of getting better, after X amount of years, they just break it all down. So their loss, hopefully, is our gain.
Yeah, it just seems like keeping healthy is going to be the thing for the whole team, right? So Kluber, low risk, high reward. This guy, Taillon. Then you got the youngsters, the Davy Garcia, Schmidt. There's a chance that we need 3 guys. We need Cole plus, like 2 more, right? I mean, we need 2
Yeah, that's
more.
the formula for October for sure. Yeah. And I mean, the way it's set up right now, our pitching staff has the highest WAR projection. For those that don't know what the WAR is, it's wins above replacement. So our projection is 18.3. Coming in at second is the Mets at 16.7. Then you got the Padres, and then the Dodgers, the 2020 champs, at 14.5. So, that's it. You can laugh at it all you want, but this is just the direction that baseball is going as far as analytics are concerned. So on paper, we're the best. They have us at as an overall wins for the Yankees, 51.5, and the Dodgers at second with 46, a 46 WAR. So, you got to put your faith in Cashman, and he's had some bad moves that he's made over the years, but he's had some really good moves as well. And you just hope that this turns out to be one of those great finds that he's brought to the table. And speaking of moves, sad to see him go. Brooklyn native traded to the Red Sox. Adam Ottavino.
I'm out of here. Bye.
Yeah, pretty much.
He gone.
Yeah, Ottavino the hell out of here. His time as a Yankee was actually pretty good. I think he was effective his first season with us. Pitched to a 1.90 ERA in 73 games. He high leverage innings, of course. He was a pivotal piece down the stretch. But there's really but so much that you could do with these one-dimensional pitchers, right? Obviously, his big pitch was the slider. And once that slider wasn't working for him, that fastball really didn't do much for him. So he was just kind of, you knew that if he didn't have his slider, then all you got to do is just sit on the fastball.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like any relief pitcher comes in with like one or two pitches. He doesn't have it going. Goodbye.
Right. Right. Yeah. And sort of, I know we always default to this, but it makes you marvel at the fact that Mariano Rivera did it for as long as he did with a cutter, just speaks to how great he is. I think the funniest thing though, that Adam Ottavino, obviously before coming here, he made the comment of like the only pitcher that he thinks he could in today's time that could strike out Babe Ruth. And he ends up going from the Yankees to the Red Sox, essentially reliving the path of the Babe. So what are your thoughts behind this recent move, getting Ottavino the hell out of here?
Dude, getting him gone. I liked him. You know what? I'll tell you the thing I liked about Ottavino the most, other than just being from New York. I just really liked that black jersey with Brooklyn on the back and the 0. That was my favorite thing about Ottavino.
That was fun. Hopefully I could get that on sale now.
Yeah, 75% off. Get that jersey the hell out of here. So I like the move. I like the move because it frees up a lot of space. I think like $9. He was getting paid $9 million. I think we're getting like close to $8 million off the books because of that. That opens the door for guys like O'Day that we just picked up. So it picks up some space. We need guys like Ottavino. 60 games. It's funny how everybody looks at the 60-game season. It's like when someone does well, they're just like, wow, look how great he did last year. When someone does bad, they're just like, 60-game season, you can't use that. So it's like,
right.
If you're going to throw it out or you're going to use it as a positive, you might as well just take the whole 2020 and throw it in the garbage, and I think Gary Sanchez could double down on that. So, I like the move. Obviously, he's leading to some other things, for us. And, cap space is something that we need, bro, because we don't really have that much room if we had him right now.
Right.
And who doesn't want Brett Gardner back?
Oh, I know one person that does. That is definitely you. I don't mind Brett Gardner.
So
Yeah,
excited.
even Kevin Hart is so excited. I'm sorry, so excited. Which is one of the funniest bits that I think he's ever done. But yeah, no, as you alluded to, obviously last year it's a tough pill to swallow because, outside of that game against the Blue Jays, but it was in Buffalo, and obviously the players, they had their own speculation as to why they performed so poorly over there, because apparently it wasn't up to
Right.
par with a lot of major league ballparks as far as lighting is concerned. So night games were tough. But he just had that period where he just couldn't get anybody out, and that really inflated his ERA to a robust over 5. I believe, yes, 589, which was what he ended the season at. And if you remember, he really wasn't anything in the playoffs. The Yankees sort of lost trust in him and didn't even utilize him down the stretch. So, when you have somebody making that kind of money, supposed to be a high leverage pitcher, it's tough to keep them on the roster. So, as you said, they trade him to the Red Sox. I hope it doesn't come back to bite us in the butt down the stretch, but you hope that by freeing up that money, which gives us wiggle room to still make some moves and get under the cap. But this trade has sort of left our bullpen currently undermanned, and as you stated before, Yankees went out and got Darren O'Day. Right, Darren O'Day. Last season, he pitched for the Atlanta Braves, 38 years old, sort of a righty-to-righty specialist. When you look at his numbers, you have to like the move. Last season, he had a 110 ERA, 5 walks, 22 strikeouts. Currently, he has a .549 OPS, which is the 5th lowest among active pitchers. And, the Yankees got him on the cheap. So, again, another move that Yankees made to sort of boost their pen. You hope that it pays out, and if it doesn't, then they have other arms, young arms in the bullpen that they're hoping that they could plug in there as well. Thoughts on the Darren O'Day
wind up, bro? Look at that wind up.
Yeah, that sidearm or submarine, whatever it's called, is pretty crazy. I don't even know. Like, obviously, I've never played above high school level, but I wouldn't even know how to clock something of that nature. But
excuse me, you play Showtime softball. Okay, shout out. Showtime.
Oh, that's right. Showtime softball. Shout out Showtime softball. Gate 6 softball coming soon. Gate 6 fantasy baseball on Yahoo coming soon. Stay tuned.
Dynasty?
Maybe a little dynasty league. Who knows? Don't get me so excited. So excited. But yeah, so Darren O'Day, I just hope that he could sort of. I've been trying to piece this in my mind and figure out like what direction they go as far as close games are concerned, right? Because for the longest time you had the Chad Green, Ottavino, Britton, Chapman formula. So you sort of wonder who takes over for Ottavino. I think right now, obviously, it's hopeful that O'Day could be plugged into that role. But if he doesn't, where does that leave us, right? Luis Sessa. I mean, I was sort of hoping that the Yankees moved on from him. They got rid of Jonathan Holder, so he's gone. So, and another reason why I think that, obviously the Yankees are not done as far as going out and getting players is they need to free up another spot on the 40-man for Darren O'Day. So it could be that they get rid of 2 prospects for, to make room for O'Day and possibly another pitcher down the stretch. And sort of looking at the free agent market as far as relief pitchers concerned, there's not really much out there. I think a lot of it is also because of age. On average, you have 35, and hey, listen, I'm going to be 34 this year, so I guess I'm talking crap about myself too. But as far as baseball years are concerned, once you hit your mid 30s, you are on the twilight end of your career. But somebody I think that could be a decent acquisition at a nice cost. We've had him. We had him before. David Robertson, he's still out there. He's coming off of Tommy John surgery.
I've been saying this for a while. I want him back. It would be nice to have, someone else in the pen that you can kind of rely on. He was good for us, aside
Yeah.
from like I think it's like his final moments. But when it comes to relief pitching, bro,
Give me two more. Give me two more. They're good.
give me two more, yo. We need two more. We need two more. All right.
Yeah,
But
no, for
yo,
sure.
Jono just mentioned in the comments that um, do we still like Chapman? I mean, Chapman is who he is. Like he's still going to be the closer. You know what I'm saying? Like I think he's going to be the closer, and that's not going to change. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I expect him to be the same Chapman, going forward. Hopefully, we don't have to rely on him in these one inning games every single time. I mean, in a tie game situation, because he seems to love tie game situations. So,
Yeah.
our top relievers are who? Chapman, Britton.
Chapman and Britton, really, and Green.
But at the
Yeah,
end of the day, that's four good relievers right there. So
yeah, true. But you don't know, especially when it comes to the latter half of the season. Um, you can't have too many arms in there, as we saw. That was one of the biggest deciding factors when it came to playing against the Rays. Was that just the Rays, their bullpen outperformed us, right? Like we had pretty decent starting pitching, minus that debacle that went down with swapping out Davy Garcia for J Happ. But it just goes to show you that pitchers are like creatures of habit, and they need to be there in those specific roles. And obviously, Chapman, I guess him going that second inning, just not comfortable with it as a professional. He's not going to allude to that he doesn't want to do it. I think, I see that Jono did mention about Britton. I think Britton was definitely one of our most effective pitchers last year, and he has been in the closing role before with Baltimore. So if Chapman can't find that dynamic part of him that he's had in these in the past in these big time situations, then I think the leash is short, and they'll definitely default to Britton at some point. And you just don't know what to expect from Chapman. That's what you get with these fireballers, right? It's like either he throws 100 miles per hour, gets it by somebody, his slider's on, and bam, like we're looking at a 1-2-3. But if he's out of control, throwing it all over the plate, it's a hot mess. You sort of hold your breath. And one of the things that vexed me so much that he's done 2 years in a row is that when giving up that big home run in the worst way possible, he's smiling. That is the last thing I want to see, is you smile in one of the worst situations, because I'm not smiling. You know what I mean? I'm upset. So
yeah, I don't know. It's like a defense mechanism for him or something that he just like, or he just, I don't know. It's got to be something like in the moment, with him. But
right.
yeah, none of us are smiling. Most of us are breaking shit when that happens, or crying. It depends on how you react to these terrible losses. But
True that.
But yeah, I feel pretty good. If we were not to do anything else with our bullpen, I feel okay about it. Obviously, our starters, you have to imagine that with the 6-7 potential starters, or, one of them might end up in the bullpen as like a long relief. So I think we look okay, but I would love to have David Robertson or someone else. I forget who else was out there that I was looking earlier that I really liked.
Hey, Trevor Rosenthal is still available.
Yeah, Rosenthal is a good pickup too if we were able to do that. But let's see, man. I'm with this move so far, and O'Day.
O'Day. Indeed. Lots to you just hope that they're able to piece it together. Matt Blake, brought in from the Indians. He was the person that evaluated their talent. He became a pitching coach for us, but this was the reason why he was brought in. His philosophy is to be able to get the most out of guys. So you just hope that in his second year that he is able to channel that and bring out the best in these dudes, because in October, that's what wins championships is pitching and timely hitting. And I see that Miguel with the Godfather reference. That was a pretty good one, Miguel. But anyway, so another recent topic, sort of, I guess you could say a little Yankee related, because we do have some of those guys that played on the ballot. So the Hall of Fame, right? For the first time in 2013, we didn't see anybody go into the Hall of Fame. The three closest individuals being Curt Schilling, Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens. They all finished at around 70%. Curt Schilling finished at 71%. So they'll have one more year to go. For those that really don't understand the makeup of the Hall of Fame. So essentially how it works is you have the Baseball Writers of America. They're in a Hall of Fame vote from its organization, which is independent of the Hall of Fame, by maintaining 10 consecutive years on a baseball beat. A beat meaning that they write about a baseball team or just the sport in general. They are required to complete a registration form and sign a code of conduct. The names of the Baseball Writers Association members casting the election results are hidden. However, an individual's ballot will not be revealed by the Hall of Fame. You need at least 75% of the vote to get in. As I mentioned, Schilling, Clemens, Bonds, all falling short. Anyone that earns less than 5% just falls off. But I guess the biggest thing that comes into question this year is they have a code of conduct clause and policy, which is essentially how the player conducts himself. And obviously the main focal point being Curt Schilling, while he was a dynamic pitcher, even though I think that his bloody sock was a fraud and fake and phony. We were at that game, remember? I think it's so funny how everybody keeps talking about that and forgets that he got smacked in that game specifically. But then afterwards, he was able to piece it together, and that definitely turned out to be one of the worst years. But something to remember is that writers are basically arbiters, right? They get to decide who goes in, who goes out, and many default to that character clause. And Curt Schilling obviously has been a very controversial person in his post career and saying homophobic things, making fun of transgender people, saying terrible things about Muslims. He was in support of the insurrection. So it's a fine line that people walk. I think he's crossed it and sort of put that line in the sand. Many will say, well, it's tough to make that assessment when you should be judging the person on their baseball career. True. But one of the things that I personally feel about the Hall of Fame is that the Hall of Fame, its purpose is to tell the story of baseball, right? And, I think character plays a big part in that. And if we're getting to a point that, it's been in the past where many people of questionable characters have gotten into the Hall, not only in baseball, but in other sports as well. I don't necessarily think that there's no room to change it. So, that's just my 2 cents as far as that's concerned. As far as Schilling goes, Clemens.
You talking about with the character clause, Dan? Like, what's weird about Schilling is he really didn't do or say anything wrong during his career. It's like right. It was really after. So first of all, he's a moron for doing this after the fact, but then you really just got to find out who he is. This is who he is. Right. So you're not supposed to just ignore who the person is all of a sudden. He could have just, shut up and he probably would have been in already. He might even be in next year if he doesn't stand by his, I'm not going to be in it next year, remove me off the ballot. But right. I think if it's just based on stats alone and his character through his career, he's in. Right. And he should be in, I think. And I don't like him at all. But
Yeah.
I think by just those standards, he should be in. But he's admitting to everyone who he is, and like that big Bible of a summary he sent out. As soon as he found out, or as soon as the votes came in that he didn't make it, it's like you know these are the kinds of things like I don't feel bad for him that he didn't get in. He didn't get in because of himself. So
Right.
it's a weird. They definitely got to change the system. A lot of people are saying more people in the Hall of Fame that are in the Hall of Fame should get more votes. Some of these writers, I mean, what is it to become a voter, right? You laid out some of those guidelines on what it takes, but I don't know, man. I'm okay with not having anybody go in. When I looked
Right.
at the list initially, there was like this. Well, I guess if I had to pick someone, there was like Scott Rowland on there. There was, I mean, obviously Andy Pettitte. We would love to get in. That wasn't going to happen now. But I do like to see somebody get in. I guess if there was a year that it wasn't going to be anybody, this would be that year.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit weird not to have anybody in, but the good thing is, we still have Derek Jeter going into the Hall of Fame this year. It's a shame that no one can actually go to that. That was probably, I mean, we were talking about that all before uh, COVID came up, that we were going to definitely make it out for that.
Right.
Going out to Cooperstown, that was going to be just a madhouse over there for that, which would have been a lot of fun. And Larry Walker, which I guess some people care about.
Yo, Mr. Canada, come on, bro.
Yeah.
I heard he's gonna come through with his Canadian tux, full on denim. That's what I heard. Just saying.
I'm out of here. Bye.
But yeah, no, obviously, hey, look, Schilling made his own bed. I guess to a certain degree, if you're expecting that you would like to go in, you sort of have to fake the funk, right? It's crazy, but your future lies in these writers. And I think Michael Kay actually said it best, as far as like these writers and the way that they've responded in all of this. And it's, they're supposed to report the news, not make the news, right? Because then in a way, what they can do is they can create, like, for example, that individual last year that didn't vote for Derek Jeter, and then they create their own content, right? They're writers in reputable newspapers and online blogs and that sort of thing, and they're able to write 3 or 4 stories off of what they've done. So I mean, it would behoove Schilling to just, I guess, play the game, right? Play the game. He played baseball.
Not that hard. It's not
play
that
the
hard.
PR game. You also hear about him just being a dick to reporters too, and this is the stuff that they hold hang on to tooth and nail when it comes to that. So and unfortunately, the same thing, it looks like it's applying for Clemens and for Bonds, and Manny Ramirez still isn't even getting like high consideration. And these are dudes that, like, they really killed us down the stretch between Schilling and Manny. And like, if you're a Yankee fan and you remember what it was like when Manny Ramirez came to the plate, it was like a gut-wrenching feeling at times, some of the things that he would do. So he, right now he's sitting at 28%. Right, Andy Pettitte 13%. Like, we understand how much of a value Andy had as a Yankee, right? One of the greatest postseason pitchers, performers of all time. And in New York and in the Bronx, that's how you gauge success, right? Is being able to perform when the spotlight is on you the most. So I guess we'll see what happens next season. It would be funny if, like you said, Schilling came out with that Bible of eviscerating those columnists, and then next year they just decide, okay, he's waited long enough of this, this kind of privileged situation, and they decide to let him in if he accepts it, at which point he might be a phony and just like, okay, did you forget about everything you said? Just kind of bite your tongue, man. Bite your tongue. I say most people do it, right? Almost everybody has to do it. So, but I guess athletes, just because they've been on a different wavelength for almost their entire life. They operate on a different level. And well, speaking of people on a different level, we brought his name up earlier. This is an ongoing story, but yo, what's up with Steve Cohen, man?
I
And
heard a
this
little bit about
Robin
this
Hood
today.
ordeal.
Yeah, this whole Robin Hood thing it's really weird that they didn't even get into it with Dave from Barstool today.
Portnoy?
And
Yeah.
yeah, what's weird about there was one comment that he made on Twitter today, and I forget it was something like along the lines like if you think this was bad, um, something about trading DeGrom to the Yankees, and I'm just like, he's kind of like making like a mockery of the whole thing now, but
Yeah.
the reality is like, he's losing money from this whole. I think he bailed out one of these hedge fund groups.
Right.
Like close to $3 billion. So I don't know. It's a weird situation if that he's really like getting that into it. This is the reason why baseball like had their reserves, with him in the very beginning. So
Yeah.
A-Rod's probably looking at this right now like, yo, this is who you guys chose.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of people that are sort of yelling for him to sell the team. For those of you that are uncertain of what's happening, just to sort of break it down. I mean, it's hard to miss. It's been all over social media, but there was a group of people on Reddit which basically called for the purchase of GameStop stocks, and they basically bet against all these big Wall Street hedge fund groups that bet on it to fail, essentially changing the trajectory of the market. And the way that Steve Cohen is involved is his parent company has sort of a piece in Citadel Investment Group, which owns Robinhood, and Robinhood, which is the app where they essentially allow people to trade and not have to pay any fees. But what's happened since then is people that have been able to make all this money off of that. Robinhood no longer gave them access to it, and people weren't able to buy outside of the hedge fund groups. And he took to Twitter today and got into the beef with David Portnoy, the owner and CEO of Barstool. Basically called him out and called him a crook, and they had a little back to back. But I think one of the most troubling tweets that he sort of put out there was just like, hey, look, this is the game, and if you don't like the way that it's played, then don't play it. Essentially, I mean, he didn't say that verbatim, but the
Yeah.
tweets that he
No,
put out there was like, what that?
I got the same tone.
Yeah.
By the way, when it comes to Robinhood, so I went on this morning and I tried to go and get AMC, right?
Right.
And I couldn't do it. It didn't allow me to do it. So I ended up
Yeah.
like, you couldn't do that. You couldn't do GameStop. You couldn't do all these that have been blown up by the Wall Street chat and Reddit, whatever. So I ended up getting some Kodak instead.
Yo,
You know?
little taking it back. We're gonna walk around with disposable cameras again. I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
sold it, made $20. So I'm out of the game now. I'm out of the game.
Day trader, hashtag day trader. But yeah, so Cohen, he basically bailed out this other firm, and people sort of question how that might affect the Mets as far as spending goes. I think they're right now one of the favorites to get Bauer, or at least they were. Who knows? But it is something to keep an eye on, and this was one of the reasons why, like you said, the reserves of the other owners essentially allowing him into the league. I think the sale fully went through back in November. Here it is, end of January, and something happened already, right? So when in doubt, just believe that the Mets are gonna Met it. So As far as taking it back to the Mets sort of having this fantasy about taking back the city from the Yankees, which I think is hysterical. I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to see that Lindor press conference, but that was one of the things he was alluding to. And it's like, how about you focus on winning your division first? Oh, and then maybe beating the Dodgers to get out of the National League Championship and then go into the World Series. But yeah, man. So pretty eventful week. I'm sure the best is yet to come. Right, things look very high for the Yankees. Trusting Cashman. It sounds cheesy to even say the other thing as far as what the Philadelphia 76ers use for that reason. But in a way, the way the Yankees have done it has been better, right? Because the 76ers sucked for all that time, and they still haven't been that good of a team. Been a decent team, but the Yankees still have maintained some good positioning as far as playoff baseball goes. So I expect big things out of this team. I hope they stick to the numbers.
What do you think now? What do you think now, Dan? That like with the latest acquisition of O'Day, I think cap space wise, there's still like close to 10 mil, maybe 9 mil left under
Right.
the 210. So what do you think about the situation now? Like, what are we gonna do potentially?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about it in the chat with all of our members. You and I have spoken about it together, and I think you also sort of see them alluding to it on the Yes Network and on 98.7 ESPN New York. It's hard to imagine. Excuse me. It's hard to imagine that if it's not a reasonable contract that they don't bring back Brett Gardner. You know, we spoke about the next man up situation, and Brett Gardner certainly filled that role great the past few years. I just think the contract has to be a bit lower because Brett is not the last piece. I still think they need one more arm in the pen. But you know, we love a little Brett. I joke around because see, my thing that I'm concerned as far as getting Brett goes is that I would love him as a Yankee, but I don't want to see him getting the bulk of the playing time. All right, I want to see, like, we know what Gardner has done. You know, at this point, he's a year-to-year guy until he decides to retire. I want to see what Clint Frazier has. You know, down the line, who knows what's going to happen when Jason Dominguez comes up to the show. So I want to see other people in that spot, which, you know, he's filled nicely, but long term, he's just not the left fielder anymore.
Yeah, but we keep getting injuries, and he keeps filling in as like the Iron Man. So you know,
Right.
I think you're right. Like we need him or someone like him, right, to be that person. He's not going to have. I mean, you know, the Yankees declined his what $10 million option,
Right.
you know, for this year. So no one. I think there's a lot of people out there like, oh my God, what's the big deal about bringing back Brett? He's a pretty should be a pretty cheap, you know, signing again for them as a backup left fielder. I mean, center fielder not so much, I guess, anymore. But you know, he should be back. I like if you were to put like a dollar amount, I would say ideally somewhere in the 3 to 4, maybe 5, depending on what we're gonna get. That would be great. You know, the question is are there other teams out there like trying to get Brett Gardner right now? Probably not. You know, they'd rather see the young guys. I think we would rather see the young guys like Clint, maybe Talkman be out there too. But
Right.
it always
Yeah.
turns
I
out,
forgot about Talkman.
it always just turns out that like he ends up being there. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
think he should be there. The veteran leadership, yeah, that's nice and all. But bottom line is, even when he plays, he didn't have a great season last year at all. You know, I do remember him having, you know, a big like defensive play. I think robbing a home run in Game 5 against the Rays last year when Cole was pitching. That kept us in the game. till later. But he's just like one of those guys that's going to come up. I mean, he's the only guy left with a World Series ring, right? I mean,
Right.
he's some of those at
He's
bats he had in 17. I remember that. Remember that at bat that he had against Cleveland. He's had a bunch
yeah.
of walk offs. He's been a great guy to have. I think people kind of downplay it a little bit, but I think he's been good. We should have him, and hopefully at a cheap rate. And now we should be able to do that comfortably with the room that Cashman opened up. So let Brett bang one more time, bro.
Yeah, he's a fan favorite for sure, and he's definitely stepped up in every way that he possibly can. Of course, one of the things that's sort of immeasurable that you can't, it's not tangible as far as like Gardner as a player is his leadership, right? There's captains and then there's leaders, and Gardner and CC for a long time were the leaders of that team. And now that CC's gone, and if Gardner leaves and doesn't come back as a Yankee, kind of have to wonder who's going to hold it down in the clubhouse
I don't
and
think we're
fill
gonna have
that
to worry
role.
about that, Dan. I don't think we're gonna have to worry about it. I think he'll be back. I think he'll be back on a hopefully a minimal deal. But yeah, these intangibles you're talking about, like these things do matter, especially on a team that's gets the media attention it does. World Series hype every single year. It's good to have somebody like him. And I think people will be surprised from time to time. People forget the year that he had in 2019. I know that people are going to say that it was like something was up with the balls that year, but he had a
Yeah,
beast
yeah.
year. He had a beast year. He didn't have a great year last year. I think I think he'll be back. I'm like 99% sure that he'll be back. Um, Again, just hope it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, no, he's I'm just thinking about what Bart, what's up USA Barty? Bart saying like going to the stadium, and one of the last memories that I have at Yankee Stadium, I was there with Jack, and we were there for Yankees Red Sox in the Toyota Terrace, which is just beneath Batter's Eye, around right, left center, and Gardner hit a grand slam against the Red Sox, and we took the lead on that, and that was the last time I remember it raining beer at the stadium. People just lost it and went nuts. So yeah, I like Brett Gardner, and I do hope that he comes back at a favorable rate. But I also do want to see other guys kind of take the mantle and be the everyday starting left fielder, whether it be Clint, Talkman, or if the Yankees go out and make some other move down the line.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, so I
Speaking
think
of memories, Dan.
yeah.
Speaking of memories, because I do remember that Gardner game, going up 5-3 with that Guardy party. We're missing over this week. We also found out that we're not going to have Tanaka Tuesdays anymore, which is pretty
Ooh,
sad.
yes.
So, what my question was, since you're sharing memories, and there's a few to think about on my end, but what's your favorite Tanaka moment that you could think of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, I think Masahiro Tanaka as a Yankee, how could you not love the guy? And he sort of projected that, not sort of, he definitely projected that. In the end, it was Yankees or nowhere. And well, in this case, it wasn't really nowhere. He decided to go back to Japan, where he's revered as a god, and go back to his team that the Yankees paid a very costly fee to get. I think they had to pay them 150 million and then give Tanaka what they gave him at the same time. But I alluded to this in the one of the threads that Kev put down earlier. Shout out to Kev. But one of my favorite moments was a sort of not so distant moment. I could remember it was when he pitched against the Astros in 2017. You know, he showed up between him and Tommy Kahnle. They pitched a combined shutout. You want to talk about rising to the occasion and being a big pitcher. In that moment, he certainly answered the call. And we've seen Tanaka do that on many different occasions. Outside of his first year of straining his UCL, he's been a very consistent guy for us. We know what we're going to get. Tanaka Tuesday became a thing. And just think about, like, he lost his velocity, so he really had to learn how to pitch. And how could you not love his gestures and his little quips about him on the mound? Tanaka Tuesday and just Masahiro Tanaka as a Yankee was a great time. And I'm certainly going to miss seeing him pitch in the Bronx. But what about you?
Yeah, you were talking about to me, the 2017 postseason sticks out for sure. But when I really felt Tanaka was like somebody you can really lean on, and it was actually not in a win, it was in a loss, was when we faced the Astros, but in 2015 in the wild card game. I think he had given up like 3 runs. I think we lost. I think it was 2015. We lost that wild card game like 4-0, but he pitched really well that game. And I remember saying to myself after that game, like, we could rely on this guy, like, in a postseason situation. Remember, I think he was like the ace for us that year.
Yeah.
So, he's someone that you can rely on. I think we're going to miss him, and I think it's going to take a little time to figure out that we are going to miss him, right away. But somebody that could take the ball every single time. He did have slight injuries. I don't think he lived up to like the contract per se and like the big expectations he had coming from Japan. But
right,
I think he's definitely somebody that was kind of like a true Yankee. It's a shame that he didn't really get a championship or make a World Series, with the team being here for 7 years. But the rest of the Yankees didn't either in the last 10 years. So It's sad to see him go. I really wish he would have brought his price down. But I guess for him it was Yankees or nowhere.
Yeah.
But
hey, man, know your worth. If you feel that you're worth 15 million, he essentially got that by going back to Japan. I think he's getting a 2-year deal, $7 million each year. And you had to wonder, like, who else? Because the biggest thing with him was his UCL. You just didn't know when it was going to pop. And if a team is giving him some big bucks, it's a big question mark. So especially when you have Trevor Bauer out in the market, I think even though Tanaka was big for us, a lot of other teams were hesitant to give him that. I'm sure he got offers, but he just liked to pitch in pinstripes, and he's all about honor and understanding and loyalty. So I'm gonna miss Masahiro. It was fun. Another thing I think that it was very underrated and not enough people spoke about was his defensive capabilities. You had that guy on the mound, and he was very similar to Mike Mussina, being able to pop off the mound, field the ball cleanly. You never really panicked when he threw the ball to first base, which I feel in most times, most pitchers, you sort of hold your breath when that little nubbler comes off the end of the bat and the pitcher charges. It's like, no, let the catcher get it, because you don't know what the pitcher is going to do. So that's certainly going to be missed as well, his impact as a defender on the field, because instead of having 8 fielders, right, we had 9 when Tanaka was out there.
Yeah, no, I know he won a gold. He had won a couple Gold Gloves in Japan. Did he win one here? I think he won a Gold Glove here. No.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I do know he made 2 All-Star appearances, so
he might have just been like a finalist.
Pretty big. That's pretty big, but he definitely had like a lot of intangibles that I think a lot of people really treasured. And of course, you saw like if you follow the Yankees Twitter and even the like last 2 years, their TikTok, a lot of their stuff featured him. So which basically points to the fact that they love the guy But it is a business, right? So at the end of the day, you can't give a pitcher $15 million just because you love him. You gotta have to meet in the middle ground somewhere. And as you stated before, even though he's been a very serviceable and good pitcher for us, I wouldn't say he was a great pitcher. But I mean, looking back at a lot of the pitchers that came over from Japan, I'd have to say that so far he's in my opinion the best. I think he's better than Yu Darvish. You know, Keigawa, we had him too. He wasn't all that.
No. He was terrible. He was terrible.
You know, Nomo was pretty good.
Yep.
Hiroki Kuroda of the Dodgers, we had him for a while as well. I mean, he was pretty good, but I think out of all those guys, you know, it's tough not to put Tanaka at the top of that list.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope Kluber fits like and takes over his role. You know, it's hard to say that with the injuries, that hopefully he doesn't have those type of injuries, but you know, I think we have a lot of starters that should be able to fill that role. I think, you know, sometime during the middle of the season, if we do have a lot of injuries, that's where we're going to really feel missing him. But hopefully someone like Kluber takes his role and more. I mean, we'd expect more from him than just that, right? So
yeah, definitely. I mean, Kluber, you know, he's coming here expecting to win. I mean, he's as robotic as LeMahieu was today. Watching the two of them talk, it was like watching two birds of a feather. But you hope that he reaches back into what he had going on in 2016, and he finds that and brings it to the table. And I just think, generally speaking, we know it's tough because here in New York, we have especially when it comes to the Yankees, the mentality is championship or bust. And we're so used to George spending. It's just not going to happen anymore. You know, especially how can you expect the Yankees to continue to spend as much money as they did when the Rays, who kicked our behind in 2020, you know, they had a $60 million payroll. So, you know, how he's really more in it for the money. His father was not going to say less business oriented, but he wasn't as concerned as far as the, you know, what the dollars amounted to. You could already tell that we've seen how display that's a challenge for him to be willing to part with the money the kind of way that George did.
You know what I don't like about that though, like George, you don't have, how does it have to be like the asshole, I guess, that George was at times. But I think the 210 and not going over the 210 is not really a big problem for everyone, but like when you're close to it and you maybe are just a player away from a World Series, let's say, or to get you over the hump, like then I feel like you got to make that move. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like go into the luxury tax if you know. I mean, I'm not talking just outside of Bauer. I don't think there's anybody else, and we're not going to go $30 million over the tax threshold right now. So that ship has sailed unless we make crazy moves. But you know, if it's something that we have to go over slightly, you know, I don't know if it's like a hard hold at 210. I think maybe they would be willing to go above if it was like we were going to go over a few million, as long as we weren't going to lose draft picks. Because I think there's like a certain threshold that if you go over, then you lose draft picks or you drop down.
Right.
So I you know, right now we're not going to go over 210 because the players aren't there to go over 210, and we're not going to go to 240 with Bauer. So you know, this is unless we make some big moves, this is the majority of the team right now. It's like already kind of shaping out to be, you know, what the team is. I wish Hal would get off of that 210 because I think they have the money. So if it turns out that we can make a move sometime later in the year or a trade that puts us slightly over, but puts us in command of the AL East, which we probably already have. You know, depending on how the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I don't know. The Blue Jays are looking pretty good. So, But
Yeah.
no,
Well, the Buffalo Jays, I mean, listen, those guys are going to definitely be, maybe top three, right? On paper.
yeah,
So they should
you have
be
to think it's Yanks, Blue Jays, Rays are going to be in the mix
right.
all year. So, yeah, no, the 210 is it's also silly because there's a new CBA that's coming up, so that whole number could change too. But you brought up an excellent point. What I think a lot of people don't know is that there's different layers to what you lose when you go over the luxury tax.
Right.
And the biggest thing is draft picks. And what's one of the biggest things where the Yankees have sort of fallen short over the years outside of Sevy is just producing starting pitching. And how do you do that? You do that in the draft. You do that with international signing money. So these are the moves and maneuvers that Cashman has to go through in order to get these things in place. Because while Bauer would be nice, I don't think he's worthy of Garrett Cole money. That's just plain and simple. He's trying to
You
have.
think he's going to get it from someone?
I don't think he's gonna get it, man. I think it's funny that Bauer went from being like so confident in his arm and his talent that he was willing to just be paid 1-year deals, the highest money that he could possibly make. He might have to settle on that, or he might have to come down. I think teams are looking at his past numbers, and then he had a very good season last year, but he only pitched 11 games. How does that translate to somebody that's making 30 starts? Like, is he even considered a Cy Young Award winner? So the thing for Bauer is that the timing just worked out perfectly for him.
I wonder if like he hasn't really done anything that bad. He's just like in the news and in the know, and he's always making comments about what's going on in the world. And he's kind of just, even with Major League Baseball, like, with the whole holdout last year and trying to figure out the game. But I wonder if teams are even reluctant to pay that because that could be kind of like a risk on their end, because he does a lot of talking off the field. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but it only takes one bad thing to be canceled. And
no, you're right. He's a bit of a headache. I mean, how many of you in here like engage with him on Twitter and he's actually blocked you? That's the kind of guy that Trevor Bauer is. Like, he's a troll on Twitter. A lot of people just don't like him as a person. So you're right. That could fit into the equation of what teams are thinking, that his numbers don't necessarily put that to rest, where they think that the pros outweigh the cons. Like, if they get him on a better deal, then they'll bring him in. But I think he'd be crazy to think that he's actually going to get a Garrett Cole contract, if not more. But the future looks bright, fellow fans. Gate 6, just we'll be with you guys every step of the way. Certainly stay tuned for future shows. We're going to have more breakdowns on all Yankee things related. We're going to be doing t-shirt giveaways. If you haven't done so already, check out the newsletter that John posted, where you could sign up on the forum and you'll be able to receive it directly to your email. That way, if you miss the Facebook notification or the Twitch notification or the YouTube, will be on all 3 of those platforms. You can certainly get it through there, and we'll just give you a brief synopsis of everything that's happening. And we've also shown the design of our first shirt that we'll be putting out. Hopefully we should be getting those soon. I think the first week of February, and we'll put up more details on how you can snag one of those. But we like to thank you all for joining in and taking the time out. Hey, yo, John.
I leave you with this, bro.
If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
Frankie said it best. Did you ever see the one where I don't think there's a video image of it. I think it was just recorded, and it sounded like he was a little tipsy at a party, and he's singing that song, and he's just like, "If I can make it there, I'm gonna make it every goddamn way." He just went off. Great. But yep, like old Blue Eyes said, it's up to you, New York, New York. So stay tuned, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We love y'all. Peace.